who does it appeal to? Because it's not going to appeal to anyone who likes hockey. And it doesn't appeal to romance fans because of the cheating, because it's written by a domestic abuser. Who's the target audience?
Us, I guess.
He wrote it so that it could get tore apart on a podcast that nobody listens to. To all members present and worldwide, I'm calling this meeting of the Piece of Shit Book Club to order. I'm your esteemed chairman and chief bibliophile, Booker Dubois. And I am in top form today. Had a nap earlier, and I'm ready to guide you, dear listener, through the world of shit lit. So this is the second time we're actually trying to do this podcast. We attempted this last week, and none of the podcast membership had read the book. And this is a book club podcast. There's really one job. You got to read the fucking book. And maybe you don't respect me. Maybe you don't respect the podcast, but I implore you to at least respect the fucking listeners. I mean, these people are tuning in to hear your takes on a book. And if you haven't read the thing, the whole podcast just goes to shit.
And that's the reason we canceled last episode, is it? It's because we didn't read the book. It's not because someone else cheaped out on their Filipino internet.
Yes. I implore you to pay the extra $1 so you have a decent connection.
There were also some technical issues. We've ironed out the bugs, but really the bottom line was nobody had read the book. So we brought back the same cast of losers, a book brigade of boozy bigots, our Piece of Shit Book Club rank and file membership. We've got Chip Wilson. Hello, Chip.
Hey, Booker. I gotta say, you're a little bit of an asshole host. I was more of Rich was a nice guy. But anyways, I'm doing fine.
There's a new chairman in town, and he's not about to take shit from rank and file members like yourself, Chip. Dr. Bo Dashington, how do you do?
Yeah, I'm good. I was actually going to ask a question on this subject, because what is the bit here? Like, what's happening? Are you a different man each week?
I think the bit is, no, it's a rotating chair is the bit. I'm a different guy. Right. Yeah. For all intents and purposes, I'm a different guy. You didn't interact with me last week. There's no institutional memory.
But who will be held to account for the statements of the previous chair people, especially when it comes to celebrating noted diddlers.
Yeah.
Okay, you're going to like this one. Before we get into this, Jane Lynch, welcome to the podcast. I hope you've read the book. It would be a first. So what I've done, because there's a lot of allegations that get thrown around on the podcast about, who's a fan of what diddler, I've loaded all of the podcast episodes into a large language model, and I'm compiling a dirty dossier of each one of you, Dr. Bo Dashington, of you, Jane Lynch, of you, Chip Wilson. So if you want to make allegations about me, if you want to try any kind of mutiny, you want to try to cross me, I've got the goods. I've got the documents. It's all in the language model, and I can pull it up, and I can cross-reference any sort of controversial statement that any of you have made and crush you.
I feel like that list has got to be 90% you.
Or past hosts.
This is kind of feeling like, the Trump accusing Clinton of being in the Epstein list. And it's like, yeah, he's mentioned, but he's not the one who's mentioned 10,000 times.
Do I have to pull up the dossier right now?
Save it until we've got a lull in conversation, then you can bring in your accusations.
Don't make me go into the dossier 5 minutes into the podcast. Actually, I was having a thought. We're getting a little bit off track already, but I was thinking about the podcast today while I was laying in bed. And I was thinking, so who are we? We're 4 ostensibly straight white guys, right?
Yeah, mostly.
Who attends book clubs?
Not middle-aged straight white guys as a general rule.
Yeah, well, that's what I said that in the beginning of the first episode. Like, men don't read books at all.
Yeah, that's come up a few times. Maybe you don't remember because apparently you're a different man.
Hence why I never read any of the books.
There we go.
I'm thinking maybe 1% of book club attendees might be sort of like pickup artist, date rapists types who are just there to try to get the women.
Sean Avery.
And they're not listening to this podcast either. They're all tuned into whoever the new Roosh V is, or whoever the chief misogynist in waiting. So I don't know what to make of that. It's not, there's no solution that I'm pitching. It's just like I was thinking about it. Even though we look at the numbers, and surprisingly, actually, we're getting some traction. But even if we posted these podcasts with any kind of regularity, if we establish like just some kind of regular cadence, we're never going to be successful. So just dwell on that.
I'm pretty sure success is kind of off the table here.
Yeah, the success went off the table when you hitched our wagon to Alex Jones and talked about how much you loved Prince Andrew.
On today's show, we shamelessly piggyback on the wild popularity of the homosexual hockey sensation Heated Rivalry by digging into a less notable hockey romance. Yes, it's a deep dive into Summer Skate: a novel, co-written by former NHL player and alleged woman beater Sean Avery. Those of you who are not aware of Sean Avery, he is perhaps the biggest prick to ever play the game, to ever lace him up, as they say. And we'll get into him and his book shortly in our feature segment. But first, the book report. Regular listeners will know that the book report is a roundup of news, what we're reading, new releases, just a whole litany of literary stories. What items would you guys like to share in this segment?
Not what I'm reading, but I thought it was actually kind of funny. Someone posted in the subreddit, Dr. D. Mango, Dr. D. Mango, a book called Gods and Spacemen in the Ancient East by Walter Raymond Drake. A book that argues that ancient civilizations of the East, primarily India, China, and Tibet, were founded, influenced, or visited by extraterrestrial beings in the distant past. And he basically argues that what we used to think were gods and magic were actually magic spacemen. But the problem is that people in Asia all have an amnesia, and they all kind of forgot that. So
a little twist on the ancient aliens.
Yeah.
There's just an ad for cigarettes halfway through the book?
Yeah, there's just an ad for cigarettes halfway through the book as well. That's how you know it's good.
Yeah, they got better sponsorship deals than us.
Yeah, speaking of sponsorship deals, have we actually gotten any money out of any of that?
No.
The bovine colostrum?
Well, yeah, whatever it was.
It's biowarfare for your gut. I have to check into that. Jane, anything you'd like to share?
I'm sorry. Yeah, no, I don't have anything this time.
I think generally what we're aiming for with this segment is everyone kind of brings an item. They bring something to the table. Maybe there's a funny knock-knock joke that you know about books. But yeah, just FYI on that. I'm reading a book. Dr. Dashington, I know you're a big Africa guy. You may have read this one. Into Africa, The Epic Adventures of Stanley and Livingstone by Martin Dugard.
I haven't read that one. Sounds interesting.
You don't know this one? It's like a pop history of the search for Livingstone and sort of a great man account, Yeah. And what's shit about it is it really builds Stanley up as this great man of history.
Yeah, that's some shit.
Yeah, and I didn't know much about the guy, but then so you start looking at the guy and it's like, yeah, he was instrumental in opening up the Congo for the Belgian king. In later trips was whipping I think even in this one, he's like whipping his help. He also, it's not substantiated, but he may have also been a chomo as well. There's a lot of allegations that could have been the case. So not a great guy, but it's a breezy read.
I think I have this is like ringing bells in my mind from some book I remember reading at uni. What was it? No, The Colonial State in Comparative Perspective. But it focuses on that guy as basically the perfect metaphor for the colonial state, and how the locals actually in Bengali used to call him, I guess, Bula Matari, like the breaker of rocks, because he'd bring dynamite with him and literally blow up rocks to clear paths and stuff.
Right.
But also just very frequently taking people with it. So they had this reputation of like, you really have to watch out for this guy because he's literally just going to blow shit up and kill people. Very much.
Yeah, he seems like a real slippery prick.
Yeah.
New and upcoming releases. Number one Amazon new releases across all categories. Peter Schweizer's Invisible Coup: How American Elites and Foreign Powers Use Immigration as a Weapon. So again, this is number one new release on Amazon. Quote, every day ICE is arresting hundreds of illegal immigrants with a criminal record. They didn't just come here, they were sent here. This guy is a noted author. He's editor of Breitbart. 484 in hardcover, released January 20th. Also available now is Carnivore Leadership, Taking Charge Instead of Taking Shit by Corporal Ramon Colon Lopez. So he's developed a list of 20 silver bullets that's become an antidote to canned speeches about how to motivate and get results. A bullet hits a target and makes an impact, and the silver bullets in carnivore leadership will do so too. Carnivore leadership is about taking initiative as opposed to reactive stance of herbivores. You can get it for $10 on Kindle, #1 in leadership and motivation, and that's out already. The last book that I wanted to highlight, new release, Woman Down, a novel. A frustrated author looks for her muse in a remote hideaway, but what she finds defies all expectations and reality. I mean, it's really too complicated to unpack the whole thing, but the book's about a fictional canceled author. Well, the actual author of this book, Hoover, faced a ton of controversy recently for a film version of a previous book of hers. This book has become sort of a lightning rod. It's seen as a middle finger to her critics. I mean, look, I don't really get it, and I got to be honest, I don't care, but I ostensibly host a book podcast, so I feel like we have to cover these things when they come up. #4 on Amazon charts, $5.99 on Kindle, and it came out January 13th. Over to you, Chip.
I read the first book, Game Changer, in the Heated Rivalry series, because we were considering doing that. But after reading that book, we discussed, and it's not like a total piece of shit. But obviously those books and the TV series are this kind of big cultural phenomenon right now. So we thought about looking at that. But I just wanted to touch on that one quickly before we get into the main event with Sean Avery. So basically these books, I think probably most people are pretty familiar with the stories, but there's the sports subgenre of romance, and there's also the male subgenre of romance, male
Right.
for female audiences. And it's sort of those two are combined in this Game Changer series from her first attempt, I think, the first in that series. So okay, but I'd hesitate to really call it like a total piece of shit.
Yeah.
And there wasn't anything too remarkable about it otherwise for us to get in depth into. But one thing I wanted to mention on it, I was kind of curious, like, why is this genre very popular with women? Like male romances. I was wondering, do you guys have any theories or like, you know?
The only thing that I know about this phenomenon, and it's not much at all, is I have seen, so in Thailand, there's like tons of wildly popular films that are man-on-man romance, but the audience is overwhelmingly women. I mean, I'm sure there's a small minority of gay fellas who like to check them out as well, but it's primarily produced for women. And I've seen one or two of these, and they're pretty much just straight ahead like romance movies. There's not really, there's no graphic sex or like any of the things that you would really want to see like in a man-on-man romance movie. But growing up, I was always mystified by the fact that women didn't watch gay porn the way that men were really into watching two ladies make out or act out in sexual situations. And now I don't know what's changed. Perhaps if you strip out the sexuality and just keep the romance in, it becomes a lot more palatable for ladies. I don't know what goes on in women's minds necessarily, but that's my working theory. It's kind of touching and harmless and non-threatening.
But I think that's it. I won't pretend to know the answer, but I guess would just be sort of say changing sexual norms, and that historically in Western countries, for whatever reason, it's quote unquote normal for heterosexual men to be turned on by two ladies getting it on, but it's quote unquote not normal for women to be turned on by two men being sexual together. Whereas just now, obviously, sexual norms have been changing across Western society as a whole, not just in our lifetimes, but specifically over even the last decade. Then my guess would just be it's just a result of that. Things are just trying to.
I never got that excited about two ladies together, though. That's not something that ever really did a whole lot for me.
Good to know. One thing you did mention, though, like it's more of a recent thing, I guess, in like Western culture, but it has been kind of a big thing in China for quite a while. Like, it got banned recently, like last year, I think, where novels of gay romance.
She's taking care of that stuff.
But it's been around for quite a long time, and it was very popular. It's never like outwardly published at the big publishing houses, but it was definitely written, and like there was like massive forums for it for
They
a couple
have
of decades.
Japan is the boy love genre, I believe. Yaoi is common in like anime and things like that. One thing that stood out to me when I was looking at why they like it, female readers or whatever, like it totally makes sense, as something kind of fun and steamy, but why is it like male specific? I don't know. One thing that a lot of people I saw say is that if you're reading something that is a pure escape, pure guilty pleasure, like relaxation, you want to forget the world, sometimes it removes any potential like problematic aspects that you might have in male female romances, in the sense that the characters are kind of on like a level playing field. There's no potentially misogynistic or patriarchal undertones or whatever. It's just kind of like a pure fantasy, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I wonder, I mean, at least I've seen that as a reason enjoyers, say that they like it so much. It's just kind of like a nice, happy.
But the TV show Heated Rivalry it's pretty horny. Like, is that characteristic of the genre as a whole, where there is a lot of like man love, like physical dude, like banging? Like I'm into it. You and I watched it. We thought it was great, but yeah. I don't know if that's par for the course or what.
This is just my impression, but I think when it comes to erotica, like I think women tend to track more towards enjoying written works, like they like reading things, and then men are more visual, just like pornography. Maybe I'm just making broad stereotypes here, but I don't know. But yeah, the show is more.
I'm sure that's true.
Direct, raw, and so I feel like the show actually was kind of more made for a gay male audience, if that makes sense. It was kind of made for the boys, but very popular with women as well, of course. But yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting genre because it's huge. It's like a huge subsection of romance which dominates literature these days. It's also kind of the total opposite of Sean Avery writing a romance novel. If you want to talk about a safe space that's free of misogyny or patriarchy.
Yeah, sure. So I think that's a great transition. So thanks for bringing us out of the book report into our feature presentation, our feature segment, Summer Skates, written by Sean Avery. Who's his co-author on this one? There was a lady. I mean, if we're gonna pretend we're a book podcast.
Open another tab here.
Leslie Cohen.
Leslie Cohen.
Speaking of misogyny, no one can remember the female author's name.
It's got nothing to do with their gender.
To be honest, that's probably us doing her a favor. If we
true.
I think it makes sense to give an overview of Sean Avery for people who may be less familiar or unfamiliar with him. I've got a rundown of some of his better known actions and incidents. I'm happy to run through it, unless you had something lined up there, Chip.
I don't. But yeah, like, I mean, guys, just, I can't think of anyone. There are a few people that are more associated with the term piece of shit, I think, than Sean Avery. Yeah. If you look at any discussion of him anywhere, you'll just see people warning each other. Like, don't read this. This guy is the most despicable piece of shit on earth.
I'm going to try to be concise. It's a long list. He's probably best known in hockey, at least, for the Avery rule. So he was a well-known player on the New York Rangers, and during the playoffs or regular season, I'd have to double check that. But anyways, basically what he would do is he would stand facing the goalie. So the goalie's facing the play. He's got his back to the play, and he's facing the goalie, and he's waving his arms around in an attempt to screen the goalie. Now, screening the goalie is a legitimate move in hockey, but they hadn't anticipated that somebody would act like a complete jackass in the way that he was acting. And it led to the Avery rule was implemented to specifically ban this type of embarrassing behavior. So, but that only scratches the surface of what this guy's done. Same year, prior to a game against the Calgary Flames, Avery told reporters it was a common thing for NHL players to fall in love with his, quote, sloppy seconds, referring to his ex-girlfriend, Alicia Cuthbert, who was then dating Flames defenseman Dion Phaneuf. Well, I mean, no one's crying any tears for Dion Phaneuf, but that's a nasty thing to say. And the NHL suspended Avery for 6 games and mandated anger management counseling. There was a guy on the Toronto Maple Leafs, Jason Blake, who got a leukemia diagnosis. Avery made inappropriate comments about this diagnosis during a pregame altercation. The league fined him $2,500. Former teammates and coaches allege that Avery bullied teammate Dustin Brown. This is when he played on the Los Angeles Kings, specifically mocking a lisp and making disparaging comments about Brown's then girlfriend. During a playoff series win, Brodeur refused to shake Avery's hand. This is the goalie that he was screening. Avery later referred to the legendary goaltender as, quote, fatso to the media. He was one of the first players fined under the NHL's new rules for what they call embellishment, or basically diving, acting like a European soccer player. He was convicted of road rage twice. He attempted criminal mischief after an incident where he slammed his scooter into a car during a dispute over a New York City bike lane. He was sentenced to time served. He was accused on multiple occasions of using obscenities towards fans and hecklers, including an incident involving a female fan in Nashville. And then, more seriously, it is alleged by his wife that he was guilty of multiple instances of domestic battery. She detailed an incident in September 2022 where Avery allegedly broke into her home, climbed into her bed twice, and physically shook her by the arms until police were called. He is alleged to have, been physically and emotionally abusive towards her son. He, quote, body slammed the toddler onto a changing table while the kid was being fussy, punching walls and doors in front of the child while screaming. He habitually put the kid in danger by failing to use a car seat. All right, well, okay, no one's perfect. Driving erratically and allowing the child to access marijuana and drug paraphernalia. I don't know the details of that, but that was a deposition from his wife. He dismissed these concerns as the wife as being, quote, crazy. And then finally, according to Rhoda, this is his wife, Avery admitted to an addiction to OxyContin, which he blamed for his, quote, bad behavior and aggressive outbursts. Interestingly, he has since reconciled, though, with his wife. Anyways, yeah, so you have inappropriate comments, the Sean Avery rule, making fun of people with leukemia, road rage conviction, heckling women, beating up his wife, abusing his son, and abusing drugs as well.
And number one bestseller.
Like a real, well-rounded piece of shit. Like if he excelled in any one of those areas, you'd be like, yeah, the guy's he's a solid 8 out of 10 piece of shit. But to be so well-rounded that both professionally, personally, in your just free time, that you're just a total rat bastard to everybody, it's almost enviable.
He also, I think we've all watched them together, but he also, for example, bikes around New York City and sort of just picks fights with homeless people. If there's workers that are parked in a bike lane, he'll just pull up and be just like, "What the fuck you doing, you fucking dumbass?" But the strange thing about this is that he just
that was the road rage conviction. But
yeah, but he did this for years.
There's tons of videos of him of it. Yeah.
Like this is, he just posts this online regularly. This is
he loves it.
That's online
his thing.
Presence.
He's like an anti-bike lane guy.
He loves bike lines. He hates people clogging up bike lanes.
Excuse me. Yeah.
He takes this real pleasure in cruelty very clearly.
Yes.
He's kind of if I found out someday that Sean Avery went to some remote property and paid to hunt humans, I wouldn't really be surprised, because he has this true villainy. I've watched stuff on him in the past that he's showed up in, because he's been in media for a long time. He has cameos in different movies. He was kind of being on the Rangers before. He's kind of, I think, got connected with the New York social scene or whatever, and did modeling.
He's a model following his NHL career, right?
Yeah, well, I think he kind of considers himself an intellectual and a creative and things like that.
Right.
But I remember watching one thing where it's him showing off his apartment, and whenever he comes in, he washes his shoes in the sink every single time he comes in from outside. There's a lot of odd things that just sort of seem like a psychopath to me.
That is psychopathic behavior.
Yeah, it's worth checking out his Twitter, or was he posting on YouTube? But yeah, he was, for a while there, really active. And you're absolutely right. He leans into being a villain. He's a guy who's pretty media savvy, and for whatever reason, he just likes this this image, this public image of him just like of being a scumbag. So like he plays a scumbag on TV, but he is also a piece of shit. Like if you watch the videos, it's like, this guy's like, he's kind of like, he's charming and dashing. Yeah. But he's also abusing his wife and like popping pills and, punching guys out and stuff.
Yeah. He does it like for the love of the game. It's not just an act.
Big time.
This is a bit of an aside, but I think you'd describe him as a metrosexual.
Yeah, when that was a thing, I think so.
Yeah, but I was thinking about that the other day. I'm like, what happened to the metrosexuals? Because they're all gone. That classification doesn't exist. But he's a very vintage metrosexual to me.
And he came about during like metrosexuality probably peaked in like the early aughts. Like that's when guys were really putting a lot of effort into their like you probably had great hair at that time.
I had hair.
But like fantastic hair.
They're going for the cheap shots today.
Excuse me.
Inspired by Avery.
It's not a cheap shot. That's not a cheap. No. That was me trying to be sincere and nice. I was saying he had nice hair in the aughts, and he was a metrosexual man. He wore collared shirts.
My eldest brother was like a real proper metrosexual. It was like in that way that he was like all about fashion, but he hated women at the same time.
Yeah.
Isn't that just a homosexual?
That's I think.
Say a hobosexual? What did you say?
A homosexual. If you hate women and you're really into fashion, I mean, that's not metro.
Gay men don't necessarily hate
metro,
women.
I think.
But yeah, no, that's metro.
If you're attracted to men, you can hate women without being attracted to men.
And vice versa.
Oh, that's true. I feel like half our audience probably falls into that category.
Yeah, probably.
Metrosexuals kind of lean pickup artist to me.
Yeah.
Which I think are also gone.
They rebranded.
Yeah, I mean, not to go too far off topic, but yeah, like I think the idea of pickup artists as sort of a mathematical formula that you can apply to getting laid is people have realized that that's bunk. But there's still like the passport bro movement, men's right movement. It's still alive and well. Like it's as Jane said, it's just really been sort of rebranded.
I think the metrosexuals, they kind of got carved out. Some of them maybe went pickup artistry or something. A lot of them probably got back injuries.
And some of them wrote romance novels.
So this book came out in 2025. It's actually a recent release. And one of the interesting things, as Chip said, if you Google the book at all, you go to any romance forums on Reddit or just like separate places, it's universally panned. So everyone writes like DNF, did not finish. And we'll get into some of the issues that people have with the book, but it usually starts with like, this guy's a real piece of shit. This book's a piece of shit. Sean Avery's book.
I saw that a lot actually on the Semen Retention Bible too. DNF. Because they didn't come. Yeah, but that was the first I heard that.
That's a good one. I'll give it to you.
Looking around on Summer Skate, that was the first time I saw the term, the DNF. But yeah, it was pretty much DNF across the board.
Yeah, looking at like the subreddit, hard no for me. This dude does need to be platformed. Yeah, I'm definitely not reading that book. There's a surprising amount of like hockey literacy in the romance subreddit, which I thought was kind of fun. I was kind of into this whole concept until I clicked on that link. Thanks, he gets 0 of my money. Another person just read the allegations, just awful. Mr. Baby Body Slammer over here.
I do have, let me play this if I can, on Sean Avery. I've got his introduction to the book that I found on Instagram that I just wanted to play.
Terrific. I haven't heard this, so I'm excited.
All right, here we go. Summer Skate, the hottest book of the summer. I gave a copy to a friend of mine yesterday. She called me this morning. She said, "That's a horny little book you got there, pal. You're goddamn right. Game changer. I'm not going to put the entire romance novel industry on blast, just the sports romance novel industry. It's time to step up your game. Game changer, matter of fact, should be the title to the follow-up of Summer Skate. Carter Hughes is a dangerous man on and off the ice. Think more Bull Durham than hard hitter. The pages are real. The pages are beautiful. Summer Skate. I couldn't even read some of this book on Instagram. They would kick me off."
Just
He's
Pages are
like
real.
a MAGA guy.
first
Pages
off,
are real, folks.
pages are real.
No, pages are real.
Because that's straight out of Trump's lips. Like, the pages are real. The book is beautiful.
Pages are beautiful.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
true. And he's doing Trump a little bit. He has a few more things to say, though.
There's a lot of fucking. There's a lot of fucking. Finish your summer
That's a
off
fucking
with
lie,
bang.
too. There's like maybe 2 fuck scenes in the whole book.
It's false advertising.
Well, he only said it twice. There's a lot of fucking. There's a lot of fucking.
It's just,
You can hit the pre-link order and go to Amazon, or you can walk into your local bookstore and say, I want this book. It's ready to go. I want it now. Summer Skate. Summer Skate. Some might say my Magnus Opus 2025. Let's go.
Magnus Opus. Real pages. Lot of fucking.
I don't know. Did we make it clear that it's a romance book that this guy wrote? If that hasn't been stated explicitly. Yeah, it's a straight romance and not a gay romance, but just
yeah, a lot of fucking.
a lot of fucking. You know, actually, so you 3 are married. I'm single. And, so I'm not in a regular committed relationship. And so I was reading the book and like, I will admit there were like some passages where like I'd start to get like horned up a little bit. And I'd be like, oh yeah, but that's like what, first of all, the writing's horrible, but it's also like, that's Sean Avery writing this. It's what he thinks is sexy. It's like, that's instant boner killer.
Can I just say, if he actually does go ahead with writing the sequel Game Changer, clearly the characters have a rival who's like a Swedish forward whose name is Magnus Opus.
All right, so let's get into it then. Summer Skate, written by Sean Avery. The plot is pretty straightforward. There's 2 characters, essentially. That's all you really need to know. There is Carter, who is a young hockey player, just got drafted by the Rangers. He's renting a house in the summer in the Hamptons. He's hanging out with 2 of his buddies. They spend a lot of time chasing skirt, drinking, partying, doing drugs, whatever. The other main character, the female lead, is Jessica. Jessica is a married writer with 1 child, 2 children. Anyway, she has kids. And she is struggling to finish her second novel. Her agent sends her to an empty house in the Hamptons so that she can have some seclusion and finish this book. The house is right beside Carter's rental, and romance ensues between the 2 of them. The book follows a format where in alternating chapters, they're from the perspective of either Jessica or Carter, back and forth, back and forth. Anything I'm missing? Really, I think that's the sort of the broad strokes.
The way that the book starts, like the opening chapter to introduce the character of Carter, is basically a story of him going out to a bar, which doesn't make sense because at this time he should be a teenager, way under the age in New York. But anyway, and someone basically calls him a pussy or something for taking a penalty or something like that. And so he responds by basically just turning around and beating 3 people mercilessly, including one guy who he punches in the face so hard that both his ears start bleeding, and he needs to phone an ambulance. And this is like the setup of the character we're supposed to like. Like, you immediately fucking hate him. Immediately.
Yeah, both the characters are terrible people. The lady, I mean, in the lady's opening chapter, it's, her with her husband, who seems like a handsome, successful, lovely, caring man. I don't see how you are meant to sympathize with either of these characters.
I don't know much about the genre, but I imagine if you're doing like romance around affairs, it's probably quite difficult to do it in a way that doesn't just disgust your audience.
Yeah.
And then in this case, both of the characters are completely unlikable.
Yeah, the guy. So Carter's like insane. So that's only the first in many reprehensible actions that he's responsible for throughout the book. He's a nut. He's clearly crazy. He takes a cocktails approach to romance. You guys must have seen the 1980s Tom Cruise movie Cocktails, where if you watch it kind of and you're only half paying attention, you're like, yeah, Tom Cruise, he's like He's this lovely, eligible bachelor. He's pursuing Elizabeth Shue, and he's charming, and he's kind of old fashioned. He's really doing his best to woo her. But when you look at the movie, you're like, this guy is like, he's a violent stalker, and he's out of his mind. In the first, what's the first or second time that Carter and Jessica are hanging out, he invites her to a party at his house, and she's quite attracted to him and realizes that she should leave the party before anything untoward happens. And as she's going back to her house, she's like, okay, well, maybe instead of taking the road, I'll cut through the woods. And then she hears someone behind her, and she starts sprinting back to her house through the woods, and realizes that Carter is behind her. She runs through the door. She locks the door behind her. She braces the door with a chair so that Carter can't break in and do whatever. And then he ends up rapping on the door, knocking louder and louder and louder, and refuses to go away. And this is the second time they've met. There's been no physical intimacy. They barely know each other, and he's chasing this lady through the woods like a half-deranged serial killer.
Presumably your comparison to Cocktails as well is based on the fact that they're trying to get with women by getting them wasted and like plying them with booze and drugs and stuff. Yeah.
If you watch Tom Cruise movies, there's like often a scene where he like runs in anger either at people or just like off into the night. It's a common trope in Tom Cruise movies that I think doesn't get discussed enough.
Did the male character seem like a Sean Avery stand-in, like as a man that's like hunts women and things?
Sorry, were you asking Booker as a man that hunts women if he recognized?
If he recognized his own kind. Yeah.
Yeah, game recognizes game.
No, but I mean, I thought he was, but I was curious if it was obvious to everyone that it seemed like it's Sean Avery. I mean, also the guys in anger management courses and things like that.
Yeah, he's got the same favorite band, Fish. It makes a point of saying that in the book and in the notes at the end. His dream is to be on the Rangers, same as Avery. I mean, he's got the exact same sort of character as Sean Avery. But the same is true of the female character as well, right? She's from the Upper West Side of New York. She's a struggling writer. As she writes romance.
Yeah.
It's like so thinly veiled for both of them. And they're both. It just almost seems surprising that people are just so willing to make themselves look like such awful people through these characters.
Well, you hit the nail on the head when you said that you're shocked at how Sean would like to be perceived or how he wants others to see him, because you highlighted him attacking the three townies. He slams one of their heads into the concrete. They bleed from the ears. And then he calls the police and says that he's been attacked by these three men to make his retaliation, quote, easier to sell. So that's bad enough. But then also he goes on in detail about how in the first grade he targeted a deaf classmate because he didn't think that the boy was actually deaf. And so he claps at him and tries to startle him, and then ends up getting detention for it. And like he would just like bully this deaf kid and torment him relentlessly. And it feels so specific that it's like,
that happened.
Yeah. He must have beat up a deaf kid when he was younger, and then perhaps toned it down a little bit for the book to make it more palatable. There's another scene where Carter's in a yoga class, and there was this woman from a couple nights before that was trying to pursue him. She's depicted as sort of vapid, but overall pleasant and nice. And he just verbally attacks her in the yoga class, calling her devoid of personality, telling her to spend more money on her appearance. And she ends up crying in this yoga class and runs out of the room, at which point I think he gets tossed out of the yoga class as well. And it goes back to Chip's point about him just kind of being villainous and mean.
Yeah.
There seems to be like some joy that's taken in making this woman cry and in sort of belittling her in front of a group of her peers.
It's just like such a vile thing. Like if you think about the romance genre as some kind of safe space for like women to enjoy themselves.
Yeah.
This book just has like all this nastiness to it. To me, it's like a true piece of shit within that genre. There's like a
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a really interesting sort of metaphor there of like Avery coming rushing into that safe space where he's not supposed to go and go, look at me, and distracting from attention. It's almost like the literary version of the Sean Avery rule, which is Avery standing in front of the universally loved Martin Brodeur. Like, does anyone have anything bad to say about that man? And waving his hands in the face.
I didn't
to
like
the extent
the
that people have to make a rule.
Devils at that time, but yeah.
I found the hockey podcast he was talking on where he supposedly said this, but it was like a 4-hour podcast. I'm like, I can't like click through this.
Right.
But he basically said, he's like, oh yeah, I just heard that like you can make a lot of money in that genre, and it's a bunch of chicks that don't know anything about hockey, so I figured I'd put a book out. He was like so dismissive and like blatant about this just being a money grab.
I got to figure that his co-writer authored most of the book, and he kind of just gave some anecdotes about his time as an NHL player, and perhaps, a little bit of color about all of the deaf and disabled kids that he beat up in his childhood.
Should we give like a rundown of the actual plot?
Go for it if you want.
I mean, there's not a lot to say. It's the author character leaves her family and kind of like pretends she is mentally ill so she can go stay in the Hamptons for a month and just focus on writing and leave her husband and kids.
Can I just ask, does she have a bad relationship with her husband? Are they like...
No. No.
Yeah.
No. He's handsome, rich investment banker. He's like a suave Hispanic guy. He's good with the kids. He takes care of her. She's depicted as being maybe a bit bored, and she's a bit of a renegade. She's not cut from the same cloth as all the other moms in the Upper West Side.
She talks about motherhood as like being like an obedient farmer. So the important thing with this book is that it's these first-person perspective between the two engaged in the affair. And I don't know, half the book is their inner monologues. So the husband that she cheats on, he only serves like as this guilt component, basically. It's like he's there, he's introduced so that you have something for her to have all these internal guilty monologues about later on.
Gotcha.
She doesn't really...
That's every other character in the book. They just serve like a very practical narrative purpose. They're not fleshed out characters. The husband maybe has like 3 or 4 lines in the whole book. It's the same thing with his buddies, the hockey players' buddies who he lives with. They're just there.
Before we get too deep into all this, sorry, I just wanted that quick context. But Bo, can you continue the plot?
I wanted to ask you one thing though, Bo, on that too. Did you find it weird that she like just faked like a mental illness to get away from her family?
Yeah, it's the same thing with like the Sean Avery character, where it's just like you just immediately dislike her.
Yeah.
And usually it's like that build up and the tension, and you like them and you want them both to succeed and come together. But and then as the book progresses, I mean, the plot's not really that interesting. It's just like a back and forth. Will they? Won't they? She's married, but they both want each other. But then he enters a competition with his hockey buddies to bang as many women as possible, and they have a point list of like the quality of the women, how many points you get, like 6 points for a model and 2 points for a yoga chick or whatever. So you just hate them more and more. And then it builds up to the Sean Avery character being called by the owner of the New York Rangers and basically told he's gonna play, and that's the plot. Like it's awful. It's not interesting. There's no tension that you care about, and you hate them both.
Well, that's not quite it. So in another abhorrent act, he beats up some guy unprovoked in a restaurant and throws him into a table full of women. And that guy turns out to be an influential guy who's connected to the owner of the Rangers, who then summons him to his mansion and tells him, like, yeah, you're going to be a star, but you better shape up and fly right, or we're going to ship you out. Oh, and he's, for some reason, banging the married author. He knows about it, and it's a big deal. He's like, you better be banging pop stars and banging this married author. We don't, us on the Rangers, we don't play that.
Yeah, he gets in a little bit of trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
but they also try to, like, there's a very thinly veiled attempt to make the Sean Avery character, I forget his name in the book, Sean Avery,
Carter,
to make his character, Carter, whatever, to make his character more likable. Like, she makes a comment at one point about a reference to, it's like, what is the romance book you're writing? She's like, oh, it's taking the plot of the Ulysses and it's transposing it onto the narrative of the Odyssey. And he makes a comment that says, oh, it all happens in a single day, right? And she's like, you've read Ulysses or something? And they're supposed to, he's actually an intellectual. And he even in another scene knows Shakespeare and can start reciting it because his passion was always acting, which for the record, also true of Sean Avery, right? Actually, don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure I read that he studied theater at one point and acting. And now he is trying to become an actor.
Yeah, correct.
Does he have any cameos?
He was in
the
Oppenheimer.
Yeah, there's a bunch of cameos.
Yeah. He was in Shoresy, which the show
that?
before Heated Rivalry from the same creator. But that's kind of obvious. It's just a hockey one. But the odd one is that he's been in 2 Christopher Nolan movies. He's been in Tenet and Oppenheimer.
Yeah, that's weird. It's also the character's got a huge dong. Don't forget. That's also made very clear.
Yeah.
One of the things that I thought was interesting about the book is they didn't make any attempt to. It's all set in the real world, but it's not an NHL licensed product, and I think that's something that's sort of unusual. So he plays for the Rangers. There's a couple of hockey players that are either mentioned or appear in the book. So Brady Tkachuk has a cameo in the book. He shows up as himself at some kind of media event. Mentioned is Sidney Crosby. Sidney Crosby catches a little bit of heat. It was in my notes. I don't know. But it's sort of clear that he doesn't have a lot of respect for Sidney Crosby. Also mentioned is who's the brawler on the Rangers? Matt Rempe. Matt Rempe is mentioned he talks to this little kid and he asks the kid, like, who's your favorite hockey player? And he's like, Matt Rempe. He's like, oh, that kid's a maniac.
It's a psycho.
What's really weird about it is that, like, okay, there's not really anything about hockey in the book. Like, it's not going to give you any insight into hockey or anything like that, other than really sort of maybe making a fantasy of like the bro banging chicks culture side of it or something. But why is there then all this real world dressing? Like, I would have thought that like the Rangers maybe would have maybe knew about it and said, don't include us in this book.
You'd think so.
It's
not flattering.
Yeah. You would think that if a hockey player is writing a romance, the one thing they could bring to it is like some kind of perspective on hockey, but it doesn't actually provide that. It's just like, here's some names.
Well, and it kind of begs the question is like, who does it appeal to? Because it's not going to appeal to anyone who likes hockey. And it doesn't appeal to romance fans because of the cheating, because it's written by a domestic abuser, and because it's generally poorly written. Who's the target audience?
Us, I guess.
He wrote it so that it could get tore apart on a podcast that nobody listens to.
One thing that I thought was really odd about, so there's, to quote Sean Avery, there's a lot of fucking in this book, but there, I think is there 2 sex scenes or 3?
2 or 3. There's not nearly enough.
Yeah. Is like Chip, you earlier noted this type of literature, especially if it's written for women, it's written in a way that's going to appeal to a woman, not to someone like Sean Avery and how they'd actually behave in a certain scenario. So the sex is usually written as being, much more consensual, much more, engaging. It was noticeable about the book is how much of that is in this book. In that, apart from the scene where he's doing the Tom Cruise running moment, in the actual sex scenes, it's very much entirely respectful. He verbally requests consent multiple times before doing anything, including like, removing her clothes and stuff like that. And even the first sex scene is entirely him going down on her, I think. It just stood out to me so strongly as being, that's obviously a part of the book where the female writer has had a lot more influence on it, and the Sean Avery has been completely edited out. And it's completely incongruent with the character who's doing bang lists and bets with his friends about who he can slam and trying to get chicks drunk and take drugs so he can bang them. Like, it's completely incongruent with the rest of the narrative.
Yeah, so she didn't ask Avery for notes on specifically how he would do the sex.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, one of the bangs does come after like a heated argument, and he gets her in the car, and then they go in the rain to the beach to bang. And it's funny because it's as they're driving and there's like tension. They're angry at each other. The book is very specific about what song comes on, and it's the song number 41 from the album Live at Luther College. And so it's clearly one of Sean Avery's like favorite romance banging songs. And I mean, I don't know Dave Matthews, so I put it on. It's just the weakest pile of steam and shit you've ever heard. It's like, you know, late 90s college rock. It sucks. You can picture Sean Avery listening to it in his car with just like this shit-eating grin on his face, cruising around Manhattan. You're like, oh, fuck, this guy sucks.
In the book, this song randomly comes on the radio?
Yeah, they get in an argument.
No way.
And he like convinces her to get in his car so he can drive her home. And then it starts raining, so they can't roll down the windows. And then like this song comes on. He's like, I fucking love this song.
Unless it's a college radio, there's no way that song is getting played.
All that said, I enjoyed reading this book maybe more than any other book I think we've read on this podcast so far.
Wow.
I actually really enjoyed it, and it may have been like a set and setting thing. I was on a beach holiday at this gorgeous beach all week when I was reading this book, just kind of laying in a hammock, and it was the best beach read. Usually, I don't want to sound like a stuffy intellectual. Usually I only read nonfiction, as you heard from my Livingston book earlier that I was talking about. A real serious academic treatise. So it was nice to take a break, unwind, and just read a proper piece of shit. I've never read a romance before. This is my first introduction to romance. And I was thinking, like, if this is a bad example of romance, I really want to get into the genre because it's really a lot of fun. So it may have awakened something inside of me.
Amazing.
You're converted. That's amazing.
Because I understand that Jane didn't read the book from this conversation, but I also understand that Chip and Bo didn't appreciate the book as much as I did.
I actually did enjoy it in a way. There were certain lines in it, like, he's like talking about his friend, and it's like, JT is a left-winger from Canada. He loves electronic music, like deep house. He plays it every chance he gets. He dresses like a white rapper and doesn't give a fuck about anything. He's always high, always going up or down. He sniffs out all the late-night parties, but he knows who he is. He's accepted it, and I mean that. He has an arm tattoo that says, I am what I am. It was just... the way it was written, just like, I just had there's so many paragraphs that I just had to laugh at. Yeah, so I enjoyed it in that sense. But for you, you're converted. You're a big romance guy now.
Nothing wrong with that.
Let's see. I'm a romantic at heart, so this may have been the genre that I should have been reading my whole life. And Bo, you didn't enjoy the book.
No, I'm not no expert on romance, but I think the strength of romance is
you're a romantic
about
man.
building. I'm a romantic guy, but I can't claim to be an expert on the genre. But I think the basic keys are like having, and I'm pretty sure the term is a meet cute, like that moment where they actually meet and there's some sort of tension. You want them, and then they're pulled apart, and you want them to get back together, and then there's tension about whether or not they will, and then there's some steamy sex, and this just doesn't have that. So it's missing like the core of the genre. And I'm not even sure if we explained, for the benefits of the listeners and for Jane Lynch, who hopefully will never read the book, how the book ends. Did we actually say how the book ends?
No, it's worth getting into that.
Really simply, Sean Avery gets called up to be the future captain of the Rangers, and he starts banging some pop star, and who he hates and has no respect for. And she just goes back to her husband. And just returns to her normal life without any form of consequences. And then there's a slight ambiguity at the end where he thinks like, I'm going to go up to the Upper West Side, implying he's going to try to see her again to continue the affair and rip apart the family. It doesn't have those key points that you want from romance.
While they were in the Hamptons, they could be themselves and they could be wild and free. But in New York, they're forced to fit into these rigid archetypes, and she has to be, this sort of Upper West Side mom who's a professional and kind of a
Has a great life, great husband, great kids.
Yeah. She's got this great life, and he's got a totally different life, and never the two shall meet.
It's basically summer just ends.
Yeah.
You know what, in terms of like the genre as well, like if someone's cheating on their partner, you want to be rooting in favor of the cheating, not against it. Like the example that just popped into my brain is the movie Titanic, where you've got the Kate Winslet's character, Billy Zane, who's I think
Billy Zane's actually, he's really the hero of the movie, but go ahead.
He's most certainly not. Like everyone agrees that he's not, but he's despicable, and he's a despicable character. And you want Rose to get away from Cal, the Billy Zane guy, and into the arms of Leo DiCaprio's character, whatever his name is, Jack. Like you want them to be pulled apart. Whereas in this one, as Chip said earlier, it's just the husband's he's just a nice guy, just a normal guy. So like, why would you cheer for his this poor man's life? I
rewatched Titanic recently. What you realize is that Rose is an unreliable narrator. It's a batty old woman is telling this story that happened 100 years ago on the salvage vessel. She has got the diamond. Billy Zane was like a nice guy who was just trying to bring his fiance over to New York. She goes running around with that scallywag Leo, breaking hearts, embarrassing the man, and really acting like a total bitch. So if you rewatch it critically, you realize that Billy Zane, he's actually a good guy. And all of the nasty stuff that he does, like backhanding his wife and stuff like that, you could chalk that up to Rose's unreliable narrator status, who was just kind of making it up, doesn't quite remember, wants to spin it so that she comes out smelling fresh. Not buying it.
Is that theory you heard from one of your QAnon buddies or something?
Yeah, we sit around talking Titanic theories.
The real controversy from the end is of course there's this gigantic ship full of people who've dedicated their lives to finding this jewel, which she has, and she could just give to them, but instead she throws it into the ocean, just wasting all of their time and energy and resources when she's come along for this free ride to out to sea on their research vessel.
She's no saint. All right, look, anything more we want to say about Summer Skate? That's the point. The point, we're here to talk about this hockey romance book.
Can I make one last point about this book? Because the book starts with you hating the characters, and I think it ends with you even hating the authors. But I don't know if you fellas read the very last page of the book, of the acknowledgements, because it makes them both look awful. No. So if I just read that. Sean would like to thank Leslie for all the early morning texts and her overall flagrant disregard for the time difference in California and New York, and for teaching him notes and then tolerating when he threw it back in her face, and for not getting easily offended when he started the calls with, "I need a cigarette before I talk to you," and frequently saying, "Can I go now?" and "My brain is melting." Leslie would like to thank Sean for teaching her that waxed is a combination of drunk and high, and for the max volume words of encouragement and the videos of fingers being severed by skates.
Yeah, he contributed nothing to the writing of the book then.
Yeah, clearly.
But I think that's a great place to put a pin in this episode. I want to thank all of the book club membership worldwide, but especially the three who agreed to come on the podcast today and share their thoughts and feelings, their candid desires, what they love, what they hate. We'll be back with a new episode soon. And in the meantime, comment, subscribe, send us hate mail, visit www.posbookclub.com. We appreciate every single listener. It means a tremendous amount to us. We love doing this project and hope we can continue to do it to bring you the best in shit lit. In the meantime, take care. I love you. Good night.